So a couple of weeks ago, I was browsing through Stack Overflow trying to find a way to finish an assignment that I honestly thought was impossible. And suddenly my goldfish attention span ran out, and I found myself checking out the top questions on the right hand side of the page. It was at that point that I stumbled upon a question from Game Dev Exchange that asked how to avoid players getting lost in and or bored by the metagame. In it, he stated that the more time you spend playing a game, the more the metagame ruins it, because by that point you are probably only playing by the metagame, and any other forms of play seem unviable. He cites various examples of how Dota used to be fun as you were learning the heroes, or how in Anno XXX it was fun to keep your citizens happy, but now everything feels like a simple strategy that you are rehearsing, and that's a very understanding worry to have as a game developer. However, let's back up a bit. What exactly is a metagame? The acronym stands for Most Effective Tactic Available. Maybe not exactly that, word by word, but that's what it means. A metagame is the best way to achieve success in a video game. If you play video games of any kind, you are probably familiar with the term, but most people see it only in competitive games like Dota, League of Legends, Schoolgirls, etc. etc. But it's not just about that. Every game, or at least almost every game, has some sort of metagame. Think of Minecraft, for example. If you already played Minecraft a lot, the first day will always turn out to be the same way. You punch a bit of wood, then you make a wooden pickaxe and a workbench, then with your wooden pickaxe you find the closest source of stone, being either a mountain nearby or just digging right below you. After that, you go fight some animals, specifically looking for sheep so you can make a bed to pass through the night. Or just getting food so you won't starve. Then, when the night is coming near, you just find a safe hole to jump in, block it with dirt or something and sleep. This may seem simple and basic, but it's a clear example of a metagame, in a game that doesn't necessarily need a metagame. And a lot of other games have it. In The Binding of Isaac, you probably already know when to keep your coins to spawn an arcade, when to search for secret rooms, when you should or shouldn't fight the Hush, what items to pick, what items to avoid, what deals with the devil to accept and whatnot. Dark Souls as well has a meta. Some weapons are stronger than others, some rings are completely indispensable, some paths to the bosses are easier than others, and you would probably know that after playing for some time. I rarely, if ever, finish a Dark Souls save without the Havels and the Fap ring. And Grasscrest should as well. But now, addressing the question, what should we do towards metagaming? I mean, it isn't a bad thing. We all love mastering the ins and outs of a game and knowing what works, what doesn't, and why. But the OP does have a point. A game with a metagame that's too predictable feels stale and repetitive. I, for example, never play in the overused tier in Pokemon. It feels boring to me with all its Talonflames, Rotom Washes and Greninjas. It rarely, if ever, shifts around the Pokemon you see. So much so that I've seen videos where people had almost the same team entirely. And that brings me to my point. In order to avoid a boring metagame, you need to create a game that's able to defy it, without feeling like the player is handicapped. I may not like playing the overused tier, but I play anything from underused and below. And I have no disadvantage, because I play against people in the same tier as me. Minecraft and The Binding of Isaac also have an interesting way of dealing with the meta, in that they are completely random. Regardless of what is the best way to do stuff, you can never be sure what curveballs the RNG will throw at you. Yes, of course, the Isaac metagame is Brimstone Mom's Knife, but if the only way to increase your DPS is by getting number 1, then you are sure to get it. Now, Dark Souls has another interesting way of dealing with the meta, because in Dark Souls it'll always be hard. Well, subjectively hard anyway. The point is, while some weapons are better than others, no weapon will win you the game, and no weapon will lose you the game. Aside from, of course, shitty weapons like the broken sword or fist weapons, which are also possible to use if you so desire. And now that I got to this topic, let me take some time to discuss how much a challenge run can break the monotony of any metagame, as well as what drives all the crazy people to try doing it. There is nothing that is more contrary to the metagame than a challenge run. A challenge run is basically stripping away anything that could make the run viable or effective and still managing it in the end. Of course, it's hard and frustrating, but it gets what you want. It drives away the monotony of having a strategy so effective that it ruins the challenge and the fun. On the other hand, speedruns are the absolute opposite. Speedruns are the metagame taken to the extreme. It's about coming up with a way to play a game so effectively that you can feasibly finish it in less than half an hour. It's about not only mastering the metagame, it's about mastering everything beyond that. I just thought it would be interesting to point out that dichotomy between the two ways crazy people play video games. Now on to the final and maybe most complicated point in this video. How to deal with meta in competitive games, like League of Legends or Dota. This one is a bit tougher because the meta will never go away. It is impossible to reach that utopic perfect balance that most people thought Overwatch had at first before realizing that McCree really needed a nerf. And Widow. And for some time even Bastion. Phew. Basically, a good metagame in this case is a shifting metagame. A metagame that is never constant for too long. Usually in games like this, the meta is easy to shift around. Overwatch is being a nice example for this. As you can remember, Pharah used to be really strong, till Ana was released, then it dropped down a bit. Widowmaker used to be too strong, so they nerfed her, which just bumped Zenyatta's pick rates by a lot. Then they just had to nerf Zenyatta, which actually brought back a lot of Lucio, who used to be the top pick for supports back then. As far as I know, most online competitive games have these sorts of interactions between patches, where direct or indirect changes shift everything around constantly. Like how Shaman went from being the worst class in the game to being arguably the best just from releasing Whispers of the Old Gods. Or maybe how a buff to Hecarim brought him back from Oblivion and turned him into a god tier pick. In the top lane. See how it all feels alive, like an ecosystem of some sort. Like, if we nerf the snakes and make them vegetarian, we will probably have a frog infestation, or something like that. I guess the interesting thing about the meta in competitive game is a lot about how it's intrinsically connected and how it moves around. So, TLDR. You shouldn't need to avoid metagaming. It is an integral part of the learning curve of any game experience, to the point where people would go so far as to surpass it, or find ways around it the moment it feels boring. But in order to avoid it being boring, there are a lot of cases you can study. Randomly generated games all have their metas, but you can't rely on them, which makes everything interesting regardless of your skill level or knowledge of the game. There is also the possibility of making a metagame that feels defiable enough to the point where you can avoid it without being handicapped. And finally, when analyzing the meta of online games, you should always see how it all connects, making it into a fluid experience, regardless of what is most effective. That's it for this one. See you around, guys.